everyone, my name is Alexandra. I'm from the Netherlands, the city called Tilburg, and today I'm going to talk with you a little bit about the relationship between different generations inside the family in the Netherlands. What do I mean by that when I say it? Actually, I mean the relationship between grandparents, their grown children, and the grandchildren. This is going to be very interesting because I will share my own experience, my own opinion, my perception of things. I'm not saying that this is the only way, things work here. That's my own opinion. That's how I view things. So everything is going to be said is very, very subjective. So there is no need for you to prove me wrong. If you have a different opinion, I respect that. But I have my own impression of how things work here. So before I start my story, I would like to ask everyone to become my subscribers. Click the subscribe button down below. Leave your likes, comments, feedbacks, questions. I will really try with all my heart to answer them, to give you some sort of reaction, feedback, answer, or whatever you want to call it. So let's begin. The relationship between different generations. I have to tell you a little bit about my past and where I come from. I was born in Moscow in Russia. That's where I was born and raised. I spent a year and a half living in New York City, and it has been already 5 years since I moved to the Netherlands. I'm married to a Dutch person. We have a son who's 1 year, 10 months old. We have a cat and a dog, and we have our own house. So I'm pretty much an internationally minded person, as my family all is. And anyway, I'm coming from a Russian background, so I was born and raised there, as I said. And the relationship between different generations and between family members are quite different and quite unique compared to how things are operating around here. What do I mean when I say that? First thing, of course, and the most important thing is that we tend to have a relationship between family members that are way more emotionally closed and open. For instance, when I speak about, the grandparents and grandchildren in the Netherlands, I've heard so many different stories. Of course, all Dutch grandparents are different. They come from different educational background, different regions. They can be religious or not religious. All people are different. But I'm trying to say some general things, make some general picture, things that you should be ready for and you can see and come across quite often once you live here. Sometimes Dutch grandparents, they can be pretty distant from their grandchildren. I've heard so many stories when they're not really participating super actively in children's life. It's not really the country that I come from, when the grandparents are so much involved in raising grandchildren. Sometimes it can only appear, it's in certain days like Christmas or Easter or birthdays or just some sort of kind of event. Because I come from the culture, when the grandparents, anytime they come to the house and they see grandchild, they bring all kinds of sweets, they can bring food, they can bring some small toys, some kind of souvenir. They never really come with empty hands to see the kid, It's not really what works here. If there is a reason for that, yes, of course, I'm going to bring a gift, but not really small things, only for special occasions. That's how Dutch people work. Dutch grandparents. What I also noticed is that Dutch grandparents can be very much active with their grandchildren if they're, how should I say that? If they were given, but if the grandchildren were given to them. They can go to parks, museums, do something active, all kinds of zoos or some interesting places. I would say that a lot of times, like, Russian grandparents are not super active in that kind of way, in this cultural way, or just a little bit less, but this is what I noticed they are quite often. They always want to know, Dutch grandparents, how they when they're going to receive grandchildren. It's not really like we're used to in Russia, that you just can be like one call and you can drop by, or you can just anytime. They like their schedule. Dutch people are very much about the schedule and they're planning their life, and they would like to know when you want to bring the grandchildren for them and how they can spend time with each other. What else? A lot of times I've heard so many stories when Dutch grandparents are not really up to actively helping families where one of the couple, no, not one of the couple, someone from the couple, you know, whether it's a wife or husband, you know, partners, whatever you want to call them, doesn't really work. You know, they have an impression, so if one person doesn't work, this person doesn't need any help. Yeah, I know it's quite weird and strange. I mean, I think in Russia it also happens quite a lot, that a lot of people get an impression that if, you know, a mom, which usually happens, usually the woman that stays with the kids, if she's not working, you know, if she's staying home, she's stay-home mom, homestay mom, to be honest, that's the correct way to say that, that she doesn't really need any help or assistance because she's at home. But the fact that staying home is a huge work and you can get tired of this, just as when you go to work and you give your children to daycare, it doesn't really take into account. And I've heard a lot of stories from, especially from Russian, you know, women who say that, like, you know, they're not really like having much of a desire, you know, to help me because they have other grandchildren and their parents work. But I really don't understand the difference. Like, whether you work or not work, taking care of children is hard. Really hard, man, you know? And like, why would you make this kind of difference? I can't really say though. But this is like the common tendencies when I can actually say, well, what else? This one other stuff comes to my mind. What you have to think of before, you know, if you're marrying a Dutch partner, you're planning to have children together, grandparents can belong to all the kinds of generation. And their way of raising children can be quite different from what you believe in. For instance, a lot of people that come from very religious background, they find it completely okay and justifiable, you know, to use some sort of light physical punishment for a child. I don't know, some slap or the ear twisting or things like that, you know? And that's totally fine. It's not like they're super angry. They might not be even, they can be super angry, but they maybe not. But it's just sort of, you know, corrective tick, you know, or slap or anything like that. And yeah, and it's not something, if it's not something what you desire, it's not something what you practice in your family. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying now Dutch people beat the Dutch grandparents beat the grandchildren to death. Absolutely not. But I'm just saying this kind of form of some sort of light physical force, you know? If you're not practicing these things and you find them unjustifiable, so keep them in mind. If this person comes from a very old religious background and they raised with sort of violence, so your grandchild can also experience that. If, of course, you know, you transfer some sort of part of your parenting to the grandparents, you know. I'm completely in control of what's going on with my child, and so I don't need this kind of, you know, constant help or assistance. Well, of course I would need it if my mom was here, you know, but your mom or, you know, and people from other culture and from other place, you know, it's different. Your mom is always your mom, you know, you can explain what you want, especially in my culture, you know, you can be quite clear, you can be quite open, you know, you fix it, that's your mom, you know. But when it's not your mom, well, that's a different story. But that's what I mean about the relationship between grandparents and the grandkids. What happens in the relationship between the grandparents and their grown children? Well, that's a different story than in Russia completely. Because Russian parents, they tend to maybe spoil a little bit their children, even like until they're like very much grown. They always want to be there, they always want to help. They remain in a very close emotional connection with their children, and that's what we call family. And yeah, that's just the relationship are less formal than here. Here it's sort of like when your child is grown, he or she starts being seen like it's like a separate person, you know. If you need some money, I can own you some, even make you like sign contract if needed, or bring you receipt and say, you know, this is like €9.78 that you have to pay back. I've heard so many stories like that, you know. And for me, as a person coming from a completely different cultural background, it's just so incomprehensive. Like, for me, once this kind of business begins, the family relationships stop, you know. And it's not about things being fair. It's about in the family, when everybody, when they have a chance, they give unconditionally. Like I was raised with, my mom was always saying, once your left hand gives, the right hand doesn't know what you has given. That's what's called giving. If you gave something, but taking into account, oh, I gave this, I gave that, that's already not giving. That's what you did already is not being seen as good stuff. And I think maybe Dutch parents, maybe they are afraid to raise, how should I say that, to raise people who are not really mature enough and not able to take enough responsibilities in life and just be childish forever. But I don't think so. Life is hard. They will teach you hard lesson. And you as a parent should not add the hard stuff on your child, but rather than, you know, show this unconditional love. Because that's what your children will return to you. It's something that you can't forget. If you really treat your child with all your heart, unconditionally, you know, trust me, this seeds of love, they will grow. And once you're old and once you're helpless, your child will be there for you. It will not really count. It's like, you know, I'm like a schedule, how many times I visited you, you know. Oh, today I visited you like this week, like one day. No, my sister will, no, you will come anytime, you'll run there. Because that's, I know, I don't think Dutch people actually believe in that and have experience. Of course, there are some bad kids, you know, who take advantage of their parents, but usually don't really happen if you parent right. I can't imagine me like taking advantage of my mom, you know. It's just, I know how much she has done to me without saying anyone this. And I know I always will be there for her. But, you know, if she would be like, oh, you know what, you need some money or something or some help. Oh, okay, but you ask me for something. This is a receipt. You're gonna pay me back this. I will write it down. That's it. It's business. That's business. Family is dead. The rest is just a concert and pretend playing. Nothing more than this. And that unfortunately happens quite often in the Netherlands, that children are staying so much like distance, grown children from their parents. But not only, you know, this two grown generations, even between the small children, small kids and their parents, I also noticed a lot of distance, a lot of things that bad happen. Oh, just ignore it. Oh, just this, a lot of cold, unemotional faces. And that's something that makes me very much sad when I think about it, because, you know, Dutch people have it all together, really. The country is functioning quite well. The old people are taken care of, the animals are taken care of, good medical system, great food, a lot of social security. But when it comes to this emotional connection in a place that's called family, this is where it should be. Like, your family should be the prime source of your energy, you know, something that is like, and a lot of times they come together like in a big party where they can be, I don't know, a birthday of someone or a Christmas celebration, and all these formal talks, nobody's just opening up, everybody's playing and pretending something, and then say, oh, so gezellig, and I'm like, where was this gezellig? What? Did anybody open up? Was anyone honest about how they feel? Was there this connection and unique warmth that comes between, that appears when two family members come together and share very private details? Did anybody support each other in a very intimate, emotional way? No. Where was your gezelligheid? Huh? And this are completely different things. It's totally different, you know. And sometimes I'm afraid they don't have enough words to actually describe what I feel, what I experience, and what I have encountered living here. But I think I do my best, and I know that my English, even though it's not my native language, I'm quite good at it. You know, I can share my thoughts and feelings using this wonderful language. So yeah, that was a story, guys, for all of you, how I see the relationship between different generations in the Netherlands. But that's just my own experience. You know, you can meet other different families and have living in other province, living in other city, and yeah, and can experience life totally different than me. But that's was my experience, and then what I wanted to share with you. So it was nice to making this video for you, shooting this video for you, and I would like to see you more on my channel. Please subscribe, give me your feedback, and see you more in my next videos in my channel. Have a nice day. Bye bye.